So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, and their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And today, I'm delighted that we have with us Steve Harrison, who's founder and head of earned media at Discovery Agency. So, firstly, Steve, thanks for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and Discovery, what you do, and how you help people, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. So yeah, my name's Steve Harrison. As you say, I'm head of earned media for Discovery. Although that is one of many hats that I wear, obviously being founder, MD,
Yep.
T-man, everything else that sort of comes with running a business these days. So yeah, Discovery is a bit of an interesting beast. We're a COVID baby, technically speaking. We started in September of 2020, so we were
Right.
sort of right in the heavy bits of lockdown,
Yep.
sort of consumed us. And we really came around because of COVID redundancies more than anything else.
Okay.
I was made redundant from my role. Dylan, who's our head of paid media, was made redundant from the agency that he was at. And after a couple of discussions, it just got to the point where we were like, I'm sick and tired of putting money in somebody else's pocket. Let's just do it ourselves. Which in hindsight was probably a stupid thing to do in the middle of COVID when there was no money to take from anybody. But there we go. It is what it is. But yeah, Discovery's been around for a little while, actually. Myself, Dylan, and Will, who does head of development side of things, sort of freelance together under the Discovery umbrella for a number of years while we
Yep.
worked with various agencies. So pulling the brand together made complete sense. It made sense for us all to get together and do what we do, and we've kind of grown from there. We're now 3 years old and on the third iteration of our website. I suppose any digital marketing agency and web agency is never really happy with their
Yes.
their design work, but we've done a lot in the last 12 months to expand and mold what Discovery is going to look like, really. So obviously when we first started out, it was very, very simply, I looked after SEO, Dylan looked after paid media, Will looked after web dev. And we were kind of tripoded a little bit from that perspective. As COVID came to an end, we knew that there was a need to have some kind of social media section within the business. And we ended up taking on an apprentice for that. It made a lot of sense to us financially. Dylan actually originally came through an apprenticeship scheme way back when he first started. So,
Right.
he knew the bells and whistles of what that meant and what it meant to the apprentices that were coming through as well. And as a business, it makes sense from us to be able to give back to our local community as well. So, since then, my son's gone on, or he's about to start college to do web development. So, there's a lot of weight and support that needs to go into the next generation of people coming through,
Yes.
who are considerably smarter than I am, for sure. Some of the stuff that Spencer's been learning at school about development is beyond me, who's been dabbling in it for the last 10 years. So, things change, new people take over, and we just sort of guide them and impart a bit of advice to them. And then as we've grown, we've moved into, I suppose, a much bigger space. So
Yep.
from our perspective, we have an office that's just outside of Leeds in Dridlington, on the M62. And the reason that we're there is to keep the overheads down as much as we can do. So when we go out and speak to people, we can very confidently say that we're an agency that's got city centre vibes to it. We have the experience behind us, we have the technology behind us, we have the staff behind us to do that. But obviously we don't need to pay city centre rates and
Yes.
city centre salaries and all that kind of stuff. And we pass those savings on to our clients where we can do. So we have an interesting mix of big globals, a couple of big global organizations, which are fun to work on, and being in different markets in the US and New Zealand, Australia and stuff like that
Wow.
is great fun. But we also go right down to the other end of the scale where we help out small and local businesses. So obviously the mainstay of what we do is SME level.
Yep.
But we do have clients who are one-man bands who are tradespeople or have their own sort of small e-commerce outfits and bits and pieces. And they really benefit from what we do because they actually get treated like you were a big client at a city centre agency. And like I
Yes.
say, they don't pay anywhere near what they would be doing down in town. So yeah, it's an interesting mix of clientele that we have, and one that I'm keen as we sort of move forward to keep supporting. For every sort of big-ish retainer that we get in through the door, it allows us to be able to give a little bit more of a discount to the small local businesses and help them.
Brilliant. That's great. That's a great way of operating, a great way of working. And what would you say is the biggest difference between working with an SME business and a large global?
Um, there isn't a huge one. You'd be quite surprised to hear, really.
Yeah, yeah,
Most SMEs, you will be dealing with probably a business owner most of the
yeah,
time, unless they've grown to that stage where they have the beginnings of a marketing team. So they might have a head of marketing, but they won't have enough bodies to be able to handle paid media and SEO and
yeah,
search
yeah,
and so on and so forth. And that's where agencies fit into their lives quite nicely. You know, they'll have one or two
yeah.
people that manage one, two, three different agencies, and away they go. It's not much different with a huge global, to be perfectly honest. It just means that their marketing department is like a little SME within their own company. So yes, you deal with
Yes,
a head of marketing or a head of channel usually, for that. And it's a little bit less likely that you'll be doing a full marketing mix for them. Generally
yeah,
speaking, an agency gets brought in for a specialism,
yeah,
which for us generally is paid media. It's one of the areas that we really excel in. So yeah, we'll go in. They'll have a head of paid channel, sort of manager or exec or whatever, that we'll report into. But we get to touch along a long way up, I guess, our ethos and the way that we pitch into companies and the way that we try and keep our comms as open as we can do. A lot of them, I mean, we're one of our clients, we are in probably monthly contact with their VP of marketing.
right.
So, you know, we do sort of get involved all the way to the top of a lot of the chains.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's mostly down to the way that we like to make sure that every stakeholder at every level is getting the information that they want. You know, reporting is going to be
Yes,
different from level to level.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, one of the things that Dylan especially and the rest of the paid media team are really good at is pulling the right data for the right people within an organization.
yeah,
So yeah, it works really well from that perspective.
yeah. Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, I guess as you say, you're a COVID baby, and I appreciate we were talking before we started about that these interviews started in COVID originally. How difficult a decision was it to set up at that point?
It wasn't a difficult decision to set up. It was a case of, oh crap, I've not got any money coming in. Where do we go from
Fair
here?
enough.
I say we were relatively fortunate that the base of people that we were
Yes.
sort of freelancing with became our client base relatively quickly.
Yeah, got you.
Um, the downside of it is that you're starting a business with a relatively low income, and
Yeah.
anybody who's in marketing will know that we've got some of the highest salaries in the UK at every level. So you know we had a decent income coming in, but we had a massive outgoing going
Yep.
out almost from the start. So it very much forced us into a situation of this has to work,
Yep.
otherwise, you know, what do we do next?
Sometimes that's the best way, isn't it? It's sort of this is the only way. There is no.
Absolutely.
Um, I'm a big rugby fan, and I think the South African rugby team talk about Plan A, and Plan B is just Plan A better, and it's
Yeah.
there is only one way. Great. So when you grow going back all the way, but when you're growing up, is this what you foresaw yourself doing, or did you have any other plans in play?
No, I'm a million miles from where I first started. So I originally trained my degree is in lighting design for theatre and television.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
so that was my growing up. You know, the main Christmas present for the family was going to see a big show in London and all that kind of stuff. So um, I was never a thespian, but I was a technologist, I suppose, from that perspective.
Yeah.
I went into theatre right as moving lights were becoming sort of quite major within the scene.
Yes.
So I grew up with that. I was one of the first people. In fact, I was the first person at my high school to do a technical drama GCSE as opposed to a scripted led one.
Yeah.
So that was quite good. And yeah, went off to university, got a job in Covent Garden in London. Worked in a theatre there, and very quickly it became very apparent that there's no wages in it at all.
Yes.
So I was like, all right, what do I do now? And took a bit of a random turn. One of my best friends was in the process of applying to the Met Police. Um, and at the time, my mum worked for British Transport Police and said, if you dare go into the Met Police, I'll kill you. So I did the next best thing, which was go into the military. So I joined the Royal Navy. I went in to do air engineering for them, work on Harrier jump jets and whatnot
Right.
on aircraft carriers. Got a big chunk of the way through basic training, developed shin splints, which if anybody's ever had it is incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Got medically discharged. Again, wondered what the hell do I do next? And then at that time, I met my other half online, made the decision to move to Yorkshire and haven't looked back since, really.
Brilliant. Great. What a great story. That's
Yes, it's had a few twists and turns
lots,
for sure.
lots of twists and turns. They're bringing almost a drama. There we go. That's it. Take us back to day one. So as you've grown Discovery and what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome so far?
Um, our biggest challenge has been, well, really the state of the country has been the biggest issue. So, like I say, obviously we started in COVID, everybody was locked down and nobody was spending then anyway. By the time we got through to sort of that Christmas, 2020 Christmas, there was news that lockdown was coming to an end early 21. So people started to release a few more budgets. They knew they had to get marketing going again, and we kind of got onto a little bit of that wave. And then, yeah, obviously the various things happened with the gas and oil prices. All those went up, so marketing took a hit again through that. So new business has always been the biggest chain, and it always is, I suppose, for every company. It's the biggest chain that's around their neck.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's marketing feels like it's had the biggest or one of the biggest roller coasters in the last
Yes.
sort of 2 years or so. We as a business ourselves feel it because gas and oil prices go up, therefore your heating bill goes up, and as soon as your heating bill goes up, it seems the one thing that gets taken away is the marketing budget, even though that's the thing that's going to be actually driving your business forwards. And I think now a lot of people have come to that realization, and things certainly this year have started to ease up. We've noticed the last couple of weeks, but we've felt almost a seasonal downturn in business as you go into the winter months, and businesses know the bills are going to be higher. That's when they start to trim. And yeah, we've definitely felt that the last few years. But every business, I suppose, feels it in one form or another.
Yeah.
What I would say is that once we do get in front of people, we have a really good record of sort of speaking to them, understanding what they want, and turning that into business. So testament to the team that we have here. They really know what they're talking about, and that coupled with the good pricing that we tend to have over and above our main competitors, it puts us in good stead.
Brilliant. Yeah, it's a real funny one, isn't it? Because we work with businesses all the time. One of the things we say to them is that most businesses, often on advice of their accountants, nothing to diss accountants, will put marketing as in the expense column, i.e. that it's an expense. And obviously, when times are tough, we start cutting expenses. Whereas we've
Yeah.
always taught them marketing should be considered an investment, i.e., as long as you can see that for every pound you spend, every pound you spend, you get a couple of pounds back in profit, then it's an investment you can scale to. So marketing should be just about buying more customers.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's where paid media really does sort of wash its face, because it's far easier to go into a business and say, look, for every pound you spend here, we can prove that there's £3 over here. You know, paid media does that, and it does it, as you said, click of fingers. You know, you turn it on, it starts doing its job. You turn it off, it stops doing its job. Um, you know, and that's really, really good, but it has its downsides. You know, depending on what industry you're in, it can be horrifically expensive. You know,
Right.
we've dealt with businesses that pay sort of, well, we have dealt with businesses that cost sort of 1 or 2 pence per click, which is absolutely fantastic. But I've worked within the legal sector before, and I've seen their cost per clicks in the 90s to £100 a click.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so you can imagine how big budgets need to be to run something
Yeah.
like that. Um, the flip side of the coin is you don't spend as much on media and you go down an SEO route, and the media side of things. But a lot of certainly small businesses don't have the appetite to sustain that long enough for it to be able to start making an impact on
Yes.
the business. You know, you do SEO, you'll start feeling the benefits of that in 2 or 3 months' time if you're
Yeah.
lucky. And realistically, it's going to take 6 to 12 months to
Yeah.
really get that up to any kind of speed that you would see from paid media.
Yes.
Um, the difference is, of course, that if you stop doing SEO in 12 months' time, you'll still feel the benefits as
Yeah.
that starts to tail off for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Whereas you turn PPC off and it stops immediately.
Yeah.
So, you know, swings and roundabouts with it. And we've always been open and honest with clients about that. You know, they've come to us and said what budget they've got, and
Yeah.
we'll give them the best sort of route to market for them. And honestly gets you a long way, I think, these days.
No, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It's that transparency that and integrity so key. Um, yeah. So what would you say are the biggest things you've learned about growing a business?
It's hard.
If
It's really hard.
it wasn't, everyone would do it. So it's
Well, that's it. That's it. I think there's a few lessons I've learned. I think, you know, when I first started off, I had every intention. I kind of knew where I wanted to be. I had a 5, 10 year plan of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to see. And like everybody else, I had my eyes set on being a 50 head strong big agency doing this, blah, 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 multi-million-pound turnover. Um, and the first lesson there is don't bite off more you can chew, for sure. You know, we're on our way, certainly, but we're there's no way
right.
we're going to do it inside of what the original thought was. Um, Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with a decent team. You
Yeah.
know, the guys that I've got here, um, we are a small outfit, and the likelihood is we will be that for the next couple of years, really. But it gives that family feel a little bit more. You know, the guys that we have here at Discovery, certainly from my perspective, uh, some of them may well have started out as employees, but I can genuinely say that each one of them now is a friend of mine, which is absolutely fantastic, and proves the fact that we do our recruitment the right way, I suppose.
Yeah.
But they all emulate the same kind of moralities and philosophies that I kind of have, and that certainly helps keeping clients,
Yes.
which is really good. So yeah, surround yourself with people that you feel you can trust. You get a good feeling that are like you. But the biggest lesson I've learned, I think, is don't try and do it by yourself. You know,
Yeah.
we went through the first 2.5 years of me steering the ship, not wanting to give away any investment to anybody, to not give away or not ignore advice, but I kind of had it in my head where I wanted to be and what direction I wanted to go in, and I was a little bit blinkered, I suppose, back in the day. We've fallen foul to that a number of times, and you know, you fall over, you learn a lesson, and you have to learn the lesson from it.
Yeah.
If you don't, you definitely will fail. But I think from have the idea of having your dream, having you know what you want to achieve, and making that clear to everybody that's involved, but don't shut out other people. You know, there are 1,000,001 people there that have been there, done that, failed at it, succeeded at it, and they've
Yeah.
all got the right pieces of advice for you to have. Listen to it, hear it. It's up to you whether you take that advice on board or not, of course. But there are a lot of people out there who are willing to help. So let them.
Yeah, it really key, isn't it? It's because yeah, a lot of people have had the same experiences, similar challenges, have overcome some of the problems we've had. So it really is a very leveraged way of accelerating our success by learning from others. Speaking of which, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. So I'm keen to
Yep.
know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that is business or sports or life in general, or the military.
Ooh, yeah. You know what? I genuinely find this a really difficult one. So I've played sport most of my life in one form or other, although I'm significantly rounder these days than I used to be.
Me too.
And I think the best there's always a switch with coaching. So I coach under 16s football at the moment.
Yes.
My son plays for our local team, and I've worked within the coaching of the team since he started. So the last 12 years,
Oh,
give or take.
brilliant.
Um, and there becomes a significant switch at around about under 12s, under 13s, where it goes from you go on a Sunday to have a laugh with your mates, play a bit of football. It's for the enjoyment.
Yeah.
And lads, especially when they get to around about that age, 12, 13, sort of high school age, it's about winning.
Yeah.
It's about winning at whatever the cost is. So we find it interesting to manage. We've got a squad of 20 lads. We can only take 15 to a game. So we have to cycle through.
Yeah.
Inevitably, you have some players that are better than others, and you've got the good lads who want to keep the best team out all the time. And we've got to balance it with giving everybody sort of fair chance. Everybody plays subs, so they all have their fair chance to play. So it's an interesting thing coaching those different abilities.
Yeah.
And I think my personal coaching development has come from me working with other coaches over the years.
Yep.
The majority of them are other dads, but we've all been through FA qualification and
Yep.
bits and pieces. And you take different things from different age groups, and going way back. I also coached my stepdaughter. She's 29 now, so we're going back years and years and years. But the highlight for her team was that we took them to the US, and we competed in the SoCal Cup with them. And seeing
Yeah.
the sporting facilities in America compared to what they are here was unbelievable. It's a completely different kettle of fish. So yeah, lots of different exposures. Like I said, being in the Navy, massive exposure to various levels of do what I say, not do what I do, which is a motto that I pick up from my dad as well. And not strictly, I suppose, coaches, but I try and keep in contact with the sort of MDs of businesses that I've worked within,
Great.
because, they hired me for a reason at the time.
Great.
So they must have seen something. And I'm a very strong believer in not burning bridges at all. I wouldn't have, I suppose, if you'd have come to me 15 years ago and said that I was going to be running an agency myself, I'd have been like, nah, well, I'm all right. Thanks very much. Whereas obviously now there's a whole bunch of people that I'm not kept in touch with on a regular basis, but I'm in touch with.
Yeah.
Being able to fall back on those or asking a bit of advice, it costs me a lunch and a cup of coffee at most to sort of get an hour with somebody who has been through it and takes something from them, even if it's a hug, which often it ends up being. But I would say we've never used a coaching facility as such, but I think that it definitely has its time and its place within a business. But yeah, use everybody you can do as a coach as you see fit for your business.
And there's always someone there to help. This what's interesting is, asking for help. People being, there's very few people will refuse a request for help.
Yeah.
And yet too many people I find don't want to ask. And it's,
very British, very British.
It's
Stiff upper
very
lip like
British.
that.
Absolutely, completely agree. It's rather British. but it's not, yeah, it's not helpful really. It's
No, no, it's
one of our
not.
British traits that aren't particularly helpful. And through whether it's coaching or through business in general, do you find yourself using any favorite quotes or sayings that help you or drive you forward?
No, not outside of swearing a lot. Um, that definitely happens. Not particularly. I don't think I've come across anything which has sort of rung in my ears.
Yep.
Or not anything I would say that sort of stuck with me. You know, various people say things over time, and you just think, oh yeah, that makes sense. And you kind of sort of pick up on bits and pieces. But no, I've not got any catchphrases, or certainly none that can go on this podcast. Um,
All good. All good. It's interesting. Some people have loads, some people have none, and I collect them, so I just like to pick up ones that as they come through. So all
I
good.
went to a recruitment agency once, a couple of years back now. Went for a meeting in their office, and it was only a little place, four or five people in there, and on the wall, in about I don't know, maybe 3 foot letters all the way across the wall, it just said "Get shit done."
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, yeah, well, that makes sense. It's a bit weird if you're going to have a client coming in here to see that plastered on the wall, but
Yes, it depends on the tonality, doesn't it? Yeah, get shit done. No. Let's get good
yeah.
stuff.
So yeah, so that's probably remained in my memory for longer than probably what it should have done.
Brilliant. And Steve, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
Um, that I'm that I'll survive. I think that's probably become more apparent in the last year than any other time, really. Um, my parents have always said that I've got the ability to sell ice to Eskimos, and I suppose most people that know me, certainly on the outside, would say that I'm not shy on confidence, particularly. Oddly enough, I am pretty much the opposite of that. I'm not a particularly confident person. I know what I'm doing, but it takes effort to be outwardly confident. Um, and I also suffer with being massively emotional. And it's almost the opposite of depression to a degree, in
Right.
that when things are going really well, I get really excited. When things are going a little bit wrong, I'll throw a hissy fit and throw my toys out the pram and bits and pieces. But I think I over the years I've kind of grown this waterproof layer to a degree where I'll get annoyed for a couple of hours or a day, and I'll sort of come in the next day and things will be back to normal. And I think that stabilization technique, or whatever it is that I have, helps in keeping everything here running relatively smoothly,
Yeah.
because the team have days where everybody has an awkward client, for whatever reason, and it can really send, when you're that deeply involved, whether it be in campaigns for paid media, whether it be in build for the websites and stuff like that. It's your baby. You're doing the work for it. So to take everything personally is very, very easy to do.
Yes.
Um, and I do it all the time. We lose, as every agency does. You lose a client, and you just think, why? What have I done? What am I done? And I've only been involved in the account, and I'll be like, what have I done that's made this happen? But obviously the flip side of that coin is that when you win a new client, you're like, yeah, I did that. so, so yeah, it's very, very Jekyll and Hyde. But I think I've grown a bit of a resilience over the last
Great.
year or so, particularly, which is really needed. A bit of a thicker
Yes.
skin. Um, but yeah, I like to think that I'm still, to a degree, sort of the lost little boy that I was when I left uni back in the 2000s.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And yeah, that's great. And resilient. I mean, I probably resilience is something that comes up probably most often, I think, of people I speak to, is that ability to be resilient, because
Yeah,
it's being able to face, the challenges as well as celebrate the successes, isn't it? That
yeah,
keeps us going. Whereas, it is often easier to give up than it is to keep going. Uh,
yeah. I think you develop that more as a business owner because you don't have any choice in
yeah,
it. if you're an employee, your choice is that you walk away and you see if the grass is green on the other
Yep.
side in a different job or whatever. So
Yeah.
that option's always there to you. Anybody that's been running a business for a number of years and is therefore has their lifestyle reliant on the way that business runs, you have to get that resilience in. Otherwise, it creates a lot of complications
Yeah.
down the line.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So looking forward, Steve, what does the future look like for you guys? What challenges do you think you might face, if any?
Oh, to quote a very old mobile phone brand, the future looks bright. I think it's orange.
Brilliant.
Uh,
Yeah, it does. Yep.
Showing
Yeah.
my age there a little bit.
That's a fairly well would, yeah.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. We are going into a couple of bigger strategic partnerships this year. So the one thing that Discovery doesn't have and doesn't plan to have is a creative arm, particularly.
Yep.
Um, that's been done for a very specific reason. You know, we see a myriad of different clients, and design is emotive every which way.
Yep.
So to have an in-house creative team, we would need a team of 3, 4, 5 people to be able to
Yes.
satisfy
Yeah, that
anybody
makes sense.
to. So we're actually in a strategic partnership with Cubby Studio, who are on the other side of Leeds to us. And that works really, really well for us because they don't have a technical arm, we don't have a creative arm. So any paid media or web build work that comes through them comes to us. If we win a website, the design goes to them, then comes back to us to get built. And because there's no treading on toes in the middle, you know, we don't offer a service they do, they don't offer a service we do.
Brilliant.
It works for us.
Yeah, yeah.
So this year is about expanding that. Cubby are very busy, so we're keen to make those creative partnerships a little bit more. Maybe down in London, where we can have a bit more of an impact on pricing, would be good. But that's something we're exploring. And one of the big things this year we're trying to get off the ground is we're doing a big charity golf day in the summer. It's not something we've ever tried before, really. But the idea behind it is it's going to have a little bit of networking in there, a little bit of fun golf. Hopefully the weather holds out for it, and we can raise some money for the 3 charities that we've decided to support this year.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And what would you say, Steve, to anyone that was thinking of going to business right now?
Be prepared. I think, you know, there are it's difficult to make it sound all doom and gloom. There's obviously some very big upsides to owning and running your own business. Key of which for me is flexibility. You know,
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. I enjoy the flexibility to drop them off at school and pick them up from school. I enjoy the flexibility of going to the gym on an afternoon if that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But as everybody here will testament to, you know, that happens, but I'm often working until 10 or 11 o'clock at night, doing various bits and pieces, and catching up. Certainly if you are a business owner, you never turn off, you know, and that's the thing you need to be prepared for. If I was in this position and my kids were sort of preschool age or primary school age, I would be finding it significantly harder because you as a father, you want to spend as much time as you can with them as they grow up.
Yeah.
Now that mine are awkward teenagers, they don't want to spend any time with me at all. So,
Yes.
you know, it works in my favor the other way now. But yeah, just be prepared. Talk to other business owners. Don't be afraid to ask for help, ask for advice. There's plenty of it around. And just do your research would be the only other thing. You
Yeah.
know, work out whatever it is that you're going into from a business perspective, work out your pricing, make sure it works for you. And if you find, as we do, we come up against freelancers a lot of the time. What separates you out from that? For us, obviously, we've got a team of 5 people here. So yeah, buy a freelancer for X amount a day and you get one person, or you pay an extra £100 a day for us and you get 5 heads looking into it. It's not necessarily that those 5 people are going to be doing your work, but the collaborativeness of
Yeah.
having those 5 people in there makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Keely, don't forget to market yourself.
Absolutely. Don't forget to market yourself. That's the only way to grow. And if you started again, is there anything significant that you think you might do differently?
Um, I think I would, if I was going back sort of 3 or 4 years, I'd tell myself to be less vain. Um, I think from the biggest lesson that we've learned is that we wanted to emulate the people that we've come from. Me and Dylan both came from big agencies in
Yep.
Leeds, and it's great to emulate them to focus on where you want to grow to. But you have to remember that they've been established 10, 15,
Yes.
20 years. They've been turning over at multi-million level for a while.
Yeah.
So you want a big posh office. Can you really afford it?
Yeah.
You want all those bits and pieces that
Yeah.
sort of sit with it. And we, don't get me wrong, we've fallen foul to it. We've gone to the nice office. We've had a nice office and we've enjoyed it. And we're about to drop back to a much smaller office because there's no point.
Yeah.
The space is great, but we don't need it. And with the state of the way everything is, with people working from home and bits and pieces, there's no need to have an office. I mean, we don't hold an office that's got 20, 30, 40 people in it when there's only 10 of you in the office at any one time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting, isn't it? Now it's that one lasting effect of COVID is this whole working office space, the need to have an office, not have an office. How do you work?
Yeah, I found it really difficult because when you recruit, it's what recruits are looking for. They want that flexibility to be able to work from home. The the downside that I find personally is that you start to lose your ability to be collaborative when you're not seeing people all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
It's all well good being sat in your nice, comfy bedroom or wherever you're doing your work from. I'd go insane if I was sat at home by myself day in, day out. I love being around other people, and I'm fortunate in that I can shut people out if I need to, and I can listen to people when I need to, and so on and so forth. But as a creative agency, I think we have to rely on the fact that we have heads together. So our flexible policy is that we have everybody in on a Friday,
Yeah.
just to make sure that we're all touching base. But all the projects are discussed in bits and pieces, and then you can choose one other day. It doesn't matter which day it is to come in. So we have guys that come in every day of the week, and we have those. Will especially because he lives quite a long way. He's nearer you down in Sheffield than us, and it's quite a trek in for him. So he just comes in for that Friday meetup. But that works because I'd rather have him doing the extra 2 hours of coding than the drive up the M1 to us. So
Yeah.
flexibility is key, but I think having a coming together on a relatively frequent basis is required.
It's really key that creative side of different eyes on different things, and as you say, the collaborative part of it, so key, and it it's finding technologies that support that as well as to allow people to do it potentially remotely. But I agree with you. There's no real replacement for everyone getting into a room together and just chatting away.
No, and now that there's no actual requirement to keep away,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I'm all for the flexibility. I offer anybody that works here has the same flexibility as I have. Two of them have got kids themselves, so they have that flexibility to come and
Yes.
go to do the school drop-offs. For me, that's really important. Anybody who's got a family, your family should always come first, regardless of whether you're an exec or whether you're a senior manager. You know, so that's from our perspective as a business. That's one of the most important points to make sure that we can get the employees' lifestyles to fit around us as much as it us to fit around them. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the key thing for growing this year.
Yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. And finally, Steve, what's the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back all that time and do so?
Good God, 18-year-old me. I think, what, I probably wouldn't change a huge amount. I have made a lot of mistakes through life. Um, and, I've had periods where my parents have bailed me out, and I've had periods where I've had massive highs and periods where I've had massive lows. But I wouldn't be the person I am today had I not gone through that. Spencer asked me the other day, what would have happened if you'd have stayed in the Navy? And I was like, well, for a start, you wouldn't be here. All those things that sort of happen for a reason. Yeah. I think if I was really going to push, then I would have perhaps pushed myself a little bit harder down the pilot route, because that's what I always wanted to do as a
Right.
kid.
Yeah.
Was never really academic enough for it, and it turns out I've kind of grown into the academics as I've got older. So,
Right.
given a do over, and I went back round and did it all again at 18. That's probably the route that I'd want to go on, see the world, and go down and do that.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Probably not you want to hear as somebody who owns a business, but there we go.
Well, funnily enough, it is. I mean, the purpose of a business of a certain owner managed business, the owner's a lifestyle they choose to have. So absolutely, it's do it through business rather than. But either way works. I mean, I think the most important thing, Steve, for everyone, is that we end up doing what we really want to do.
Yeah.
Now, the route to get there is different ways as well, and it's different choices. But if we, businesses can and should be the great enabler for the things that we really truly want to do.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I fell into marketing by accident, but I love being here. I love
Yeah.
the creative side of stuff. I love seeing, the latest Apple website when that comes out and the technology that goes behind that. And me and Will spend hours trying to dissect how multi-million-pound organizations do their websites so that we can do it for a smidgen of the cost.
Brilliant.
That kind of stuff really, really is why I'm here doing what I do. So
Fabulous. Well, Steve, it's been really fascinating talking to you this morning, and really thank you for your time. And for anyone that's watching, would like to get in touch with you or the company, what would be the best way to do so?
Obviously the website, discoveryagency.co.uk. Have a look on there at obviously everything we offer, and get in contact that way. Or on any of the social media channels. We're on Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, wherever you can find us, just drop us a line. Always happy to have a chat, and if it's just about help and advice, happy to do that as well. No problem.
Fantastic, thank you, and be great to swing by another 6-12 months and just see how things have gone, the
Absolutely.
Partnerships, etc., and just see how things are developing for you. So for now, thank you so much.
Thank you.